Hello, everybody. This is Gerald Celente, and it's Wednesday, February 15th, 2023. So happy day after Valentine's Day. And we have with us, he's still got his red Valentine's heart on there, Judge Andrew Napolitano, a man of wisdom, insights, observations, truth, intelligence, and the American spirit of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights that no one I know knows better than him. Judge, thanks for being here today.
Thank you, Gerald. Thank you for your very generous introduction, as always.
Well, it's the truth. And it's so important right now. It's just, I'm heartbroken about how I keep seeing how they keep robbing us of our freedom. And these crazy people in power. This isn't the America that our founding fathers envisioned by a long shot. They must be turning in their grave. And one of the founding fathers that nobody talks about anymore, but they named a place after him called Washington. And he was against foreign entanglements. His farewell address, George Washington, a real man that fought, not like these little boys that couldn't fight, they would have a paper bag. The former first president of the United States warns the American people not to get involved in any foreign entanglements, particularly in Europe, because this has been going on for centuries between these people, and it's not our business. But as you write in your column that's going out tomorrow, War and Indifference, it is our business of the dictators that are running our country. And you say, which is more destructive to personal liberty? A government that engages in secret acts of war, or a public and news media that is indifferent to it? In the current American toxic stew of anti-Russian hatred and beating the drums of war, in President Joe Biden's America, we have both.
We do have both. We have, thanks to the great Cy Hirsch, investigative reporter of My Lai massacre, Watergate, CIA spying, American torture, Pulitzer Prize fame, he exposed in a huge embarrassment to the government and to the mainstream media the fact that the Nord Stream pipeline, built by private enterprise from Russia and Germany to deliver cheap natural gas to utilities in Germany, so cheap that they could resell it to utilities in Northern Europe, that pipeline was blown up in a $10 billion assault. That's the damage that was done, ordered by Joe Biden, conducted by the CIA and the United States Navy. And the American media and the American public are indifferent to it. It's like ho-hum. Fox News, my former employer and my former colleagues and my friends, are actually trying to disprove it. The New York Times and the Wall Street Journal and the Washington Post are totally ignoring it. This is an act of war against an ally, Germany, and against a putative, but we never fought a war against them, adversary, Russia. This is the use of the president's private army, the CIA. And for the first, which every president since Truman has used the private army to kill somebody, to destroy something. But Joe Biden is the first to do it against an ally. So it's not only an act of war, it's a war crime. It's the destruction of the targeting of non-military assets by military means where there's no lawful military purpose to this. This is to harm the Russian economy and to keep the Germans in line so that they will enforce the sanctions that Joe Biden wants. And they will send the tanks to Ukraine that Joe Biden wants. And did you hear a peep out of Chancellor Scholz or anybody in Germany? Nothing.
You know, I followed this, of course, when they blew it up. And then the Swedes came out with a report that it was blown up. And they refused to, this is going back a number of months ago. They refused to provide additional details. They said that. They refused to provide additional details. So in other words, they knew who did it. And what people don't realize, again, they know all about, the Super Bowl and all of that stuff that just happened, the Grammys, the World Cup. They don't have any idea of what really goes on and what happens. But going back to the Nord Stream pipeline, when they blew up the Crimea bridge and the Nord Stream pipeline, that's when Putin escalated the Ukraine war. He warned before it happened that if there were attacks on Russian soil, Russian properties, this would be escalated. And here we are.
Well, Putin is the only one who told the truth on this. When the pipeline blew, Joe Biden, Tony Blinken, Victoria Nuland, the Deputy Secretary of State in charge of this nonsense, all blamed it on Russia. Putin said, what are you, crazy? Why would we blow up our own asset? The Americans did it. And as far as the Crimean bridge was concerned, the British did it. And according to Scott Ritter and Colonel McGregor, Putin was correct on both counts. Well, we now know from side chase he was correct on who blew up Nord Stream. And we know from physical evidence that they found there that MI6, the British intelligence services, the secret army that the Prime Minister of Britain has, just like the US president has his secret CIA army, that they blew it up. So Putin's been telling the truth all along. And when Putin says, you cross the line, we're going to come after you, we crossed the line. And you're right, he accelerated military activities in Ukraine. And Joe Biden is crazy enough. He's crazy to spend 50 billion of the 100 billion Congress gave him. But he's crazier, in my view, to engage in an act of war on civilian assets and to provoke Putin. You have been saying this since day one. I'm going to quote the great Gerald Celente. Quote, when all else fails, they bring it to war, close quote. But you have been saying that Joe Biden wants war because his stewardship of the executive branch of the federal government is so miserable. Just like balloons in the sky, they want to take our eyes off the ball. Yeah. Joe wants our eyes off of this terrible domestic stewardship to rally around him in support of war. I don't think he's going to get the support that he needs. You're going to address 1 million people on Sunday who are basically going to say to the president, no more war. No more war. We've been through this before. It didn't work. Vietnam was a disaster and a criminal act. Don't do it again.
But again, you mentioned about how the media also is part of this in your article.
Yes.
And it's so true. The press.
I think Side Chase embarrassed the media. Side Chase embarrassed the media by doing an A+ 2.0 job of investigative reporting that somebody from the New York Times or the Washington Post or the Wall Street Journal or Fox or NBC or CBS or ABC should have done, but they didn't because they're all pro-war.
Yeah, you write over here that the press is the eyes and ears of the public. But if the press is coward or is in bed with the government, who will expose the government when it fights secret wars? Where are the members of Congress? Where is the public outrage? End quote. That's what you just wrote. So you know what I call the press? I call them prostitutes. They're media whores. You said they're in bed with the government. They put out for their corporate pimps and their government whoremasters. That's all they are. And you go back to every war that in our lifetime, and remember the Maine before our lifetime, brought to you by the Hearst organization, the media